The Summer Birds by Penelope Farmer, which was written in 1962, so 61 years ago as of this recording. Part 1, 1. Innumerable swallows nested in the battlements of the old house and swooped and dived all day from May to October, skimming off the green lawn surface. They were the envy of Charlotte and Emma, who lived with their grandfather Elijah and his housekeeper, Miss Gosling, in the turreted Victorian house called Aviary Hall. An appropriate name, it turned out. There was an enormous fan made of wide-eyed peacock's feathers in a glass case in the hall, 20 hummingbirds strung on wires in a glass case in the drawing room, and upstairs a sunken marble bath, which meant that instead of climbing over the edge of a tub, you stepped down into your bath like a Roman lady. This was impressive, but otherwise the house was little different from the Victorian villas you can see standing in rows anywhere, with names like the Laurels or the Cedars. It had dim shrubbery, several useful greenhouses, and a large walled kitchen garden tended by a gardener called Bomble, who kept a pair of bantams under his basket chair and was Charlotte and Emma's friend. One summer morning, Charlotte and Emma set out for school, past the lawn and the swallows skimming. "I wish we could fly like them," said Emma. "And I," Charlotte sighed. "Though we never will," she added. This happened every morning, but on their way down the lane between high banks, buttercupped and laced with cow parsley, they met a boy nonchalantly slashing at the hedge with a stick, and this had never happened before. "Hello," he said. "Hello," replied Emma cheerfully. "But I don't think we know you, do we?" said Charlotte, who was always more cautious. "No, I don't expect you do," agreed the boy. He stood slashing at the hedge, at the frothy heads of the cow parsley, looking at them, half smiling. Charlotte nearly said briskly, "Come on, Emma, we should be late for school," for he was such a strange boy, and she did not think they ought to stay talking with him, but she feared it would look rude and unfriendly. Besides, he was not very large and all alone in the lane on such a beautiful morning. So they stayed, looking at one another, wondering what to say. "What are you doing here?" asked Emma curiously. "Just thinking," replied the boy, smiling at her. "And hitting the hedge," he added, lifting his stick and striking the fresh green. "Thinking," said Emma, still more curiously. "Whatever about?" "Don't be rude, Emma," whispered Charlotte. "You mustn't ask such questions." The boy heard and looked at her, smiling mockingly. "I don't mind," he said. "What I think is not private to those who ask. I was thinking about the trees and the hedge in the morning, and about the lark thrown high up there in the sky, and now I'm thinking about you. I like thinking." Emma was impatient. "You'll be late for school if you stay here thinking much longer," she cried. "I?" said the boy. "I don't go to school." In surprise, Charlotte said, "Oh, but I thought everyone had to go to school." Well, Emma jumped up and down on her short legs and shrieked, come with us, why don't you come with us?" But Charlotte looked at him doubtfully. He had a freckled, winged face, with wide slant eyes, of a brown that was almost red, like chestnuts. He wore a faded blue shirt, speckled like a thrush's egg, above patched leather shorts, and his legs were long and bare, brown like an Indian's. He was remote and wild. She could not explain or understand him, so she said cautiously, looking at the red lighting of his eyes, "I don't know what our teacher would say." But Emma was never cautious. "Do come," she pleaded. He stood silent there watching them. Then he raised his head and looked up at the lofty sky. In silence they could hear the shrill shouting of the lark, and suddenly they saw it high above them. In the blue, a bird, a glint of goldfinch, darted in eager flight from the hedge, skimming over their heads, and was gone. At that, the boy gave one last sharp blow at the bank with his stick, making the grasses quiver, and turned to Charlotte and Emma. "Yes, I will come with you," he said, and throwing the stick deliberately from him, set off at such a swift pace down the hill that they had almost to run to keep up with him. He said not another word. And that is the end of chapter 1.